All right, I'm going back to the laboratory. All right, Ben. So I'm not done with this room.
Letting the questions roll.
Okay, so let's talk about outlets. And outlets can be placed in the wall at hammer height. They call it hammer height, about 13 inches from floor.
I've never heard that expression.
Oh, yeah. So like
hammer height.
When the electricians are there, they place a hammer because there's a standard size for a hammer. And then that's where the outlet is placed.
Been doing this for over 20 years. I just learned this new term, hammer height.
Uh-huh. That's right. We're all in school still. Back to outlets. Yes. So outlets can go on the wall. They can be placed in a baseboard, and it can be in the center of a baseboard. So there is this conversation of, okay, yes, we have outlets. Where do we want them? But what do we want them to look like in this room? So going back to the laboratory, tell me how you thought through even outlets in here.
Oh, that's a great question. So one of the things that we really wanted to do with this project is, again, do things that, again, our clients don't normally allow us to do, either because it's more complicated or it's more expensive or fill in the blank. We wanted to kind of say, as a premise for this project, let's do all those things. Let's figure that out so that we can be able to show them what the final product is and see when they come to see our house as an example, they can say, do I like that? Do I not like that? So one of the things that I had wanted to use for a very long time was this Bocci plug. Bocci is the brand, and they have developed an outlet. It is a singleplex, not a dual, and it just keeps it very, very minimal. And our notion with that was, in situations we want to show a client where we have a complex profile of baseboard, which we do in this room, that's 3 steps, we wanted to be able to say, okay, a big outlet right in the middle of that thing is going to be not ideal. Let's show them a more ideal situation where we've miniaturized what you actually see. So the power is there, but it's making a minimal statement.
So behind the scenes, this baseboard happens to be a thicker baseboard. So oftentimes a baseboard's 3/4 of an inch, right? And it gets installed. If it's a 1/2 inch, it can get wavy. So this one's actually thicker than 3/4 of an inch. So there are certain barrel sizes of the Bocci that we need to select. And there's also a plate that needed to be routed into the back of the baseboard so that it could extend further into the face. And so there are these technical aspects, which we made some mock-ups. We reviewed the mock-ups. We even reviewed the dimension between the actual outlet and the wood, how tight we wanted that to be, so that we could still insert a tool to remove that outlet in the event there's an issue. So all of these inner workings behind the scenes are really important so that we can execute what Ben really wanted.
This is part of the reason I wanted to do this in my own home. Was I never had a client that was interested in doing this because they are more expensive. A lot of my clients I could talk them into was a screwless plate. I mean, that was like, okay, at least I got that. So on this particular project, I wanted to show not only the Bocci, but we also used a Trufig plug. Secondary spaces, we did go ahead and do the screwless plates. So we did look at a variety and not as a universal decision, but I wanted to do the Bocci so I could learn about these pitfalls. I had no idea when we designed the profile of our baseboard that we were going to actually have to route in that backplate into the back of the baseboard because its tool did not allow it to go flush with the finished surface of that baseboard. I learned something, and now going into a project, I'm going to be able to share that knowledge with clients and make sure we're not designing a situation where we have all this extra labor to pull off this detail.
Yes, and even bring that further, the baseboards had to be loose until the very end of the process because we needed to get behind the baseboard. So it wasn't just put them in and go. So there were different phases of installation, and that's coordinated with the trim carpenters, with the painters. Okay, Trufig, you mentioned Trufig. Tell me about Trufig and what it actually looks like.
We didn't use it in this particular room, but there are some rooms in our house that we utilize this product. And what's really neat about Trufig plugs is that they are also recessed outlet covers. So essentially you can have a perfectly smooth surface and you have the removable plate that's part of it, and it is flush with whatever that finished surface is.
As opposed to an applied plate.
Exactly, staining proud of whatever that surface might be. Backsplash, it could be a baseboard. It could be any number of surfaces you might have a plug. It was important for us to show both in this project. And again, we utilize those technologies in our backsplashes, in our kitchen, and in our chef's pantry so that you had opportunities to also see that technology.
And, of course, Ben took it a step further and had an artist come into the home.
Yeah.
And actually apply some faux finishing,
decorative painting, yes.
So that it looks like the actual marble or stone
that it's sitting in.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was one of those things. It's like, again, trying to think about these quiet surfaces. I talked about the quiet ceiling. I talked about the baseboard and quieting that down. It was also important for us to quiet the backsplash down. In kitchen design, a lot of times the solution has always been, we're just going to go away with all of your backsplash plugs, and we're just going to do some plug mold on the underneath side of the upper cabinet. Problem with that is if you go to use it, you have to look underneath and plug something up, but then you have this little pigtail of the black plug from your toaster or your coffee maker, which you probably want to keep plugged in most of the time. And it's just sitting there and on full display. Using a plug mold isn't always, in my opinion, the best solution. I thought, let's hide these plugs in plain sight at a usable height.
Yes. So do you actually go through and ask, where will your coffee machine be?
100%.
Okay.
That's so critical. I say, what are the appliances that you're going to leave out on your countertop all the time? Most of my clients say, I'm going to have my toaster oven. I'm going to have my coffee maker, my Keurig, whatever it might be. They're going to have it plugged in. Or it may even be as simple as I have my family's plug central for all of the various devices that the family uses. They may even have that as a minimum. So you kind of have to think through the plug situation. It's a very important part of the process and the conversation to yield what I think is the optimal result.
Yeah, that's awesome.